About a year ago, my friend Lauren and I set out to write a song about the early days of a romantic relationship. We were discussing the emotions and thoughts that were common to first dates, and one that we both related to was worrying about oversharing with the new person. It's common to get lost in conversation and let your guard down, which I would argue is often healthy. However, it's easy to feel insecure about doing so. With this sentiment in mind, we wrote our song, Did I Say Too Much? Today's video is about storytelling through sound design, so as to drive home lyrical themes beyond the words themselves. It's also very important to focus on emotion when writing melodies and the chord progressions, but you can explore a song's themes through sound design as well. To demonstrate this, I'll show you how I used a granular synthesizer to create a transitional moment with a feeling of anxious tension. As Lauren sings the words, "Did I say too much?" her words are pulled apart and repeated in an abstract, non-rhythmic way, which represents what it's like to overthink these things. In the context of the song, it intensifies the lyrics at the end of the verse, as well as the feeling of resolution as the chorus lands. Here's how it sounds.
Did I say too much?
So as you can hear, in the gap between when she finishes saying, "Did I say too much?" and the beginning of the chorus, there's this moment where the words "did I say too much" are kind of bouncing around in the stereo field. And I really like the way that it sounded for the song. So to create this sound, first you're going to need to choose some source audio. I've got the same thing that I started with, which was the raw mic input from Lauren's vocal recording.
Did I say too much?
And you're also going to need a granular synthesizer. For Did I Say Too Much, I originally used Quanta, but I only had the trial version, so I could only use it for 30 minutes at a time or something, and just had to bounce that down immediately. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be using Granulator 2, which is a free Max for Live granular synthesizer. If you check the description below, I'll chuck down a link where you can download it for free. It doesn't have the prettiest user interface. Some of the writing is a little bit hard to read, but it does the job and it sounds basically the same. So I'm just going to drag down my source MIDI, which is the same as the original had. So I'll load up Granulator and I'm going to drag in my source audio straight into this little black region here. So just to run over the basics of granular synthesis, it takes an audio file as input. I've just drawn out the waveform here. And it basically plays the audio file from lots of different points within the waveform at the same time. These playheads are allowed to overlap. So for an arbitrary example, let's say at some point in the synthesis there were two playheads at once. Let's say there's this green one here and a blue one, and let's say they're playing at the exact same time. The green one will start from at this point in the waveform, and the blue one will start from this point, and they'll play these sections of audio simultaneously, so they will overlap each other. Most granular synthesizers will have a file position control, which basically determines the center of where the grains of audio will be emitted from. So if we say the file position is here and it has no spray, so let's say the spray knob is set to 0, then that means it'll only play a very small region of audio from here. And it will kind of sound like it's looping over and over because multiple grains are being played from the one spot. If we set the spray to something a little bit larger, so let's say the spray is like this region, then that means that the grains can originate from any point within this range here. You can set the length of the grains or how long they will play out for. And so if you have really short lengths, they might only play a section of audio that's a few milliseconds long, or you can tell them to play a longer section of audio and they can do that kind of thing and will overlap like this. You can also set the number of grains or how many voices the granular synthesizer will have, and that's basically how many instances of audio are allowed to be played at the same time. So the more grains you have, the more kind of blurry and chaotic it will sound, and the fewer you have, the more distinguishable each of the grains will be. There's also often lots of controls for randomization, so that each of the grains has slightly different properties, such as the volume, the spread for like the stereo width of the grains. So one might be in the left, one might be in the right, and you end up with a very wide overall output. Each synthesizer will have different settings that kind of make it unique, give it some interesting characteristics. And you can get very experimental with these things. So with that in mind, let's get back into the process. So if we play this with some MIDI right off the bat, you'll hear how the initial settings sound. You can drag this little yellow box around, and that's basically like the playhead region where the grains of audio will begin playing from.
Did I say too much?
So it's kind of already sounding like the right kind of characteristic that we're going for. So dragging this yellow box, as you can see, it changes the file pos knob. I'm going to set that to the center of this region of audio here, which is, did I say too much? That's what those three kind of bubbles are. And then so that means that as we increase the spray, it's going to start the audio from a wider range. So that sounds like this. I'm just going to clean up some of the low end because it is the raw audio from the microphone. So now that I've got the spray and the file position set to the right amount, I'm going to change the grain knob. And this is used to control the length of the audio grains. So I've got it set to 5 Hertz here. So this means that a new grain is generated 5 times a second. I kind of want that to be a little bit less so we get fewer voices at once and we can kind of hear what's going on more. You can change the number of voices over here with the voice control. So I'm going to set that to like 3. Next, I'm going to start playing with the spread. And this is where we get into increasing the stereo width of the overall sound. This little slider down here on the bottom left is the spread. And so if you set that up to 100, it basically sets the randomization of the pan for each grain to be the full stereo field. So that sounds like this. Instead of it sounding like the grains are coming out of the center, now they're coming out all across the stereo field. And I did this because I felt like it really exacerbated that feeling of anxiety and overthinking. It's coming from all around. So those are the main parameters that you need to create this particular sound. At this point, it basically matches what I had in the original one, minus the post-processing. Another thing that's fun to look at though is the scan, and this basically just moves the file position from one point to another.
Did I say?
So you can kind of see visually a lot of the grains are starting out on the left region of this and then they move across further to the right. So you get a bit more of that temporal cohesion of did I say, and then she's repeating that word and then it's too much. Turning down the spray and the grain size, you can get a cool glitchy effect with that.
I say too much. I say too much. Did I say too much? Did I say too much?
If you turn off the scan at this point, you can just automate this. So if I set this to start the start of the phrase, go up to the end of the phrase, and then we can go back.
Did I say too much? No. Yes. Did I say?
Secret message hidden in my music. If you reverse the audio, she says,
yes.
I guess that answers the question. Did I say too much?
Yes.
Sorry. Sorry to hear it. Your anxieties were valid. That's funny. Anyway, on that note, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you learned something. You can take granular synthesis in so many different directions. Artists like Flume have really proven that to be true. If you want to hear the rest of the song, Did I Say Too Much? It's available to stream everywhere. It came out about a year ago, but it still slaps to this day. So I would recommend you listen to that. Lauren's voice is absolutely wonderful. I'm going to be launching my website very soon, and on that website, I'm going to be posting accompanying blogs for each of these videos that I make, including diagrams, further explanations, maybe other examples of the things that I'm discussing. So that should be really helpful for anyone who's interested. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more of this kind of thing, if there's any particular tutorial topic you'd like me to discuss. Also, feel free to check out my new album, which is available to stream. I'll leave a link to that below as well. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this and subscribe if you want to see more. I'll be posting these videos every Friday. And so with that, see you next Friday.